Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a look at some interesting developments in aviation, stuff that came out on Thursday, May 15th, 2025.
That's right. We've got a couple of key things from Asian aviation. First up, this partnership deal between Skytrans, the Australian airline, and Sabre, the big travel marketplace.
Yeah.
And second, Danata. They're making a pretty major move expanding their ground support equipment fleet.
Right, the GSE.
Yeah?
Okay, so our plan is to really dig into these, understand what they mean, and, maybe get a sense of the bigger picture in aviation right now. Let's start with Skytrans and Sabre. What's the story there?
Well, the big thing is Skytrans is using Sabre now to get its flights out there. Sabre's basically, this huge system that travel agents and corporate travel folks use all the time. So this partnership means those agents can now easily find and book Skytrans flights, fares, ancillaries, the whole package.
Right, and for a regional player like Skytrans, getting that kind of instant access to, like, a massive network of travel sellers,
Yeah.
that's got to be a pretty big deal for growth, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. The article stresses how it expands their visibility, particularly to agents and corporate buyers in Australia using Sabre. It just, opens doors for more business.
How would they have done it before? Just direct website bookings mainly?
Yeah, mostly direct, maybe some smaller deals with local agents. But using a GDS, a global distribution system like Sabre, it just scales everything up massively. They're tapping into Sabre's existing network instead of building it all themselves.
That makes a lot of sense. The piece mentions their current routes, Cairns, Cape York with Sunday Coast, but this new Sydney to Lord Howe Island route gets a specific mention.
Oh, the UNESCO site. That's quite a destination.
Exactly. And Paul Williams from Skytrans, their revenue guy, he called this deal a milestone, especially with those new Sydney flights launching and, growing interest elsewhere.
Yeah.
It really feels like they're aiming higher, doesn't it? Trying to capture more of that Australian travel market.
It certainly looks that way, and it makes you wonder, are they trying to reach a slightly different type of traveler now? Beyond their traditional regional Queensland base, maybe more leisure travelers out of Sydney.
That's a good point. The Lord Howe Island flight, that probably appeals to a different crowd than, say, Cairns to Cape York.
Yeah.
So Sabre helps them reach that broader audience.
Precisely.
Okay, so what's the angle for Sabre? Why bring Skytrans on board?
For Sabre, it makes their own platform stronger in Australia. More choice for the travel sellers using their system. Adding Skytrans with its regional network and that unique Lord Howe route. It just makes Sabre more valuable, more comprehensive for agents down under.
So better platform, happier agents, good for Sabre.
Yeah, and Brett Thorstad from Sabre basically said, as much they want to help airlines of all sizes, even those flying to more remote spots, offer more choice.
Gotcha. And we should probably mention Skytrans is part of Aviation Solutions Group, and they've added Airbus A319s recently. So bigger planes. This Sabre deal feels like a smart way to help fill those seats, especially on the new routes.
Exactly right. You've got the planes, now you need the distribution channel to, maximize the potential. It'll be interesting for you as a traveler to see if this makes getting to places like Lord Howe easier, maybe affects pricing too.
Yeah, definitely one to watch. Okay, let's pivot to the second big item. Danata and all that ground support equipment. 800 new units globally in 2025. That sounds like a lot.
It is, and it's a U.S. $110 million investment just for this year's batch. It's pretty significant.
Wow. So what's driving this? Just replacing old gear?
Well, it's partly that, but the article really highlights two main goals. Boosting operational performance, so being more efficient on the ground.
Okay.
And, crucially, cutting emissions. Making things greener. That's a huge theme across aviation now, and Danata is clearly leaning into it.
Right, sustainability.
Yeah.
And we mentioned these units are part of bigger, longer-term deals signed last year worth $210 million in total.
Yeah, these global framework contracts with manufacturers. That suggests it's a sustained strategy, getting a steady supply of advanced lower emission equipment over time, not just a one-off splash.
And they get the latest tech that way, presumably.
You'd assume so. And where this new GSE, the baggage carts, the tugs, all that stuff, where it's going is interesting too.
Where are the hotspots?
The biggest chunks are headed for the UAE, Brazil, Italy, the USA, and Singapore. That tells you where Danata sees major activity, major growth happening.
Makes sense. Their airport ops CEO, Clive Sauvé-Hopkins, he talked about wanting to lead in both operations and sustainability. Investing in a modern fleet is key to that. He specifically mentioned zero and low emission tech.
Electric, hybrid, maybe hydrogen down the line, wherever the airport infrastructure can actually support it. They seem pretty serious about pushing that transition.
And it's not just future plans, right? The article said over 40% of their fleet in places like Italy, Switzerland, the Netherlands, the UK is already electric.
Exactly. They're already walking the walk in some key markets. It shows real progress.
And even where electric isn't feasible yet, like in Dubai, they've switched the non-electric stuff to biodiesel. That's another way to chip away at the carbon footprint.
Right. And they're also looking at the operational side, using tracking systems to monitor fuel, optimizing routes on the tarmac, even managing shifts and parking better to cut down wasted fuel. It's quite a holistic approach.
It really seems like it. So looking at Danata's big global footprint and this kind of major investment in greener GSE, it could really push the whole ground handling sector forward, couldn't it? Maybe encourage others.
Absolutely. It sets a standard, and it also reflects this underlying expectation that air travel is going to keep growing, so we need more sustainable ways to handle all that activity on the ground.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. If we boil down these May 15th announcements, what are the key takeaways for you?
Well, first, you've got Skytrans making a really strategic play to get more reach via Sabre. That signals growth ambitions, especially connecting people to those unique Australian spots. Good news, potentially, if you're looking to travel there.
Yeah, opening up access.
Yeah.
And
Second is Danata's huge investment in their ground operations. It screams anticipation of more air travel globally, but also this really strong embedded commitment now to doing it more efficiently and much more sustainably.
greener ground ops.
Exactly. So two different parts of the industry, airlines and ground handlers, but both showing signs of adapting, expanding reach, and investing in efficiency, and importantly, a greener future.
So thinking about these moves, the airline expanding its network reach, the ground handler greening its fleet, it definitely makes you wonder, doesn't it, what other parts of aviation are going to see similar big investments or partnerships next, especially trying to balance that growing demand with the need to be more sustainable. Something to keep an eye on. Thanks for digging into this with us today.